All right, guys, I thought I might tell you what I've been up to for the last 2 weeks or so, and it also might kind of explain why my hands have been a little bit beat up. I've been looking at pinning trays. Now, you might ask why, because, well, you know, some of your viewers have sent you some beautiful pinning trays. Steven Zealous built this for me, and it's kind of neat. He made this with nothing but his hands and a router. Custom slots, a little open chamber there, inset, a lock with Bosnianbill. Really nice, very nice work, I got to say. But as I'm looking through some of these, each of them has an idea that I like, and I'm starting to put these ideas together. Again, another walnut one by Steven Zealous with a router. And I'm putting these ideas together and storing them, and I have been, for the last couple of years. This one's by Bob Stout, made out of a beautiful piece of bamboo, and this one's made with more than a router. It's a 3D router. I don't know what kind he has, but that allows him, it's a CNC cutter, and it allowed him to put in LockLab logo. So very cool. And again, we're starting to see multiple chambers and different depths. So deeper chambers, shallower flutes. So really cool ideas that I'm starting to stack up, you know, unique shapes. This one, we call this the Jeep because it looks like a windshield with the grill and the headlights. So very cool, multiple chambers for different stuff. And, you know, I've really been putting these ideas together, hoping to make one of my own someday. And then 3 things have happened lately that made me decide to go ahead and jump onto that. The first is this. I know it doesn't look like much, but I stole this from Lockpicking Lawyer. No, truth is he loaned it to me. And this was one of his learning curves as well. But it turned out it's a mistake. It's made out of a cutting board, by the way. It was a mistake, but he learned an important lesson, and it turned out to be a benefit for all of us. First of all, when we're dumping pins, traditionally we try to dump them very carefully to hit the right flute. More often than not, the pin bounces around and goes in the wrong place, and you got to pick it up and move it. Well, Harry came up with this idea, and what happened was he had cut the flutes, and he was cutting a chamber, and he accidentally cut too far, and he cut the chamber down into the flutes. And at first he thought it was a mistake, and then he realized that if he dumps the pins up there, he just can drag them into the right chamber. So great idea. So this was basically the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of design. This was an important advance in design. Even though it was a mistake, I thought I got to have that. That's just great. The second thing that happened is I found a guy on eBay selling drop-offs of corian. And I thought, well, maybe I can get on my milling machine and maybe pop a few of these things out. But then I wasn't going to be able to have some of those other benefits like the custom logo and engraving and all of that stuff. So I set this aside, and then I found this guy. This is a Shapeoko 3 that I found listed on Craigslist. The guy was going through a divorce, decided to dump all of his stuff from his garage, and I grabbed it. Now, it needed some work, needed a new circuit board, needed a new router. It was pretty nasty, but I cleaned it up, replaced a bunch of parts, and it ends up working great. It is a lot cheaper than buying a brand new one. So now I took all these things together. I went on to my SolidWorks program. I designed the very first pinning tray based on the size of the corian that I had already bought off of eBay. I plugged it into the Shapeoko 3, and out came version 1. Now you're going to see a series of failures here, but I'm learning from each and every one of them. First of all, I tried to cut this entire thing in one pass. I had a very slow feed rate, obviously, and what you see here took 42 minutes to complete, but it's got a lot of mistakes in it. First of all, when it started trying to plunge to cut down into this groove where the core would go, it wasn't cutting the complete depth. Also, along that same line, this tray is supposed to be 3 millimeters deep, as are these flutes. It was cutting this 3, but it only cut the flutes 2. I never did figure out why that was, but that's just the way it turned out. Also, the logo turned out looking like crap because you don't engrave logos with a ball and end mill. Just not going to work. So one pass, and it's just total failure. So I went on to version 2, made a couple of changes. Again, I kept the same one pass. I kept the 1/4-inch ball end mill. It took me 58s to do this one in one pass, but I still have some problems. It didn't like plunging down inside of here, even with a slower feed rate. So I realized I was going to have to go to 2 passes in order to get a successful cut here. Likewise, I'm still having the 2 height differences between the dump chamber and the flutes and left a little ski ramp there. I didn't want that. I want these both exactly the same depth. One pass wasn't going to get it. Also, LockLab, I'm a slow learner, was still screwed up. Version 3 and 4 were identical failures, and they both failed in exactly the same place. I sped up my feed rate because I was having 2 passes. So the first one was very fast feed rate, left these real rough marks. The second pass was a much slower feed rate, and it's beautiful. Beautiful finish, almost glass-like. But by the time it got to here, it didn't like plunging down inside of there. And so we had a jump cog, and we had a complete failure right here 2 times. So I decided to try something else. Version 5. Version 5 was 2 passes, a 1/4-inch ball end mill, took 91 minutes. I got rid of the LockLab logo. I put in a tweezer tray. I'm a slow learner, but I'm not totally stupid. And it came out looking pretty good. A couple of improvements I decided to make on version 5. Everywhere you see red, I decided to fillet the edges. These are real sharp, so I decided to kind of round them off to give it a more finished, a more professional look. So back to the drawing board. Came out with this guy. Again, 2 passes, but I changed, because I wanted a finer finish, I changed it to an 1/8 ball end mill, and it took me 122 minutes to reach this point where that 1/8 bit started to fail. So I'm starting to learn the same lessons again and again. Back to the 1/4-inch, slowed down my feed rate, took 2 passes, and it came out perfect. There you go, guys. Everything's rounded. All the edges are rounded. The plunge is perfect. So slow down the feed rate and make 2 passes. Everything turns out beautiful. I also learned that corian is different depending on the manufacturer and the color. So when I cut this off-white one with these little particles, I think you can see them in there, very nice texture. This cut very cleanly, and it didn't leave a lot of marks. Basically what I had to do is run over this with some steel wool, and it just took most of those marks out. I also found a way to engrave this. Instead of using the 1/4-inch ball and mill, I used the bit that I should have used to start with, which is intended for engraving, the 90-degree V-bit. And again, that came out beautiful. Put some paint down in there, steel wooled it, came out looking great. This took, believe it or not, still took about 2 hours from beginning to end. Well, because I messed with Harry's prototype, I decided to make him one as well, and I went ahead and put his logo. So by the time you see this video, you might have already seen this in some of Harry's videos, because I'm filming this a little bit ahead of time. I decided to try this also in different colors, and I tried to do it in black, because Harry said he wanted one in black. Well, I did mine. It came out okay, but what I find about black is that it really shows the tool marks, no matter how careful or how slow your feed rate is. If there's any kind of defect, like right, I think you can see that, it really bothers, and not anal retentive, so it really bothers me. But when you look at it from a distance, kind of cool. This black has some kind of, let me flip it over. It's got some kind of reflective material in it, and on the shined area, all of it had these machine marks. I did 400 grit, 600, and then I used steel wool to really smooth out all the high points. The low points, I just left it kind of rough. 4 hours from beginning to end, a little over 4 hours. Still, I decided to make Harry one as well. So you guys might have seen this one as well. All right, my original idea was to kind of produce these things and put them on the website to, maybe help offset some of the cost of the postage and some of the giveaways. So I knew working for 4 hours, I was never going to be able to sell it at that rate. So decided to try something different. Decided to downscale it a little bit, get rid of all the deep plunge cuts, which reduces the risk of failures. And this is what I came up with. Nice little tray. Everything is filleted. Everything comes out at the right altitude and just beautiful. Little steel wool, little paint, came out perfect. This is 90 minutes beginning to end. I decided to make a couple more out of different colors of corian that I had bought. This is out of 1/2-inch material, and Shapeoko really doesn't care, but really is beautiful material. It just takes so long to produce. Again, 90 minutes for each of these, not economical to produce. I decided to look at a different material. So I went off to Bed Bath & Beyond. I found this guy, bamboo. This is called a bar block. For those of you who have gone into bars, this is what they bring your sandwiches on, little cheese trays, stuff like that. Kind of nice because the entire perimeter already has that fillet already around, already finished. So all I'd have to do is do the engraving on the stuff inside of the tray, and I'd be done. And so that's exactly what I did here. Because wood is a softer material, I went ahead and put the core storage area back in there. I had no trouble at all with the plunge cuts on any of this. It just came out beautiful from beginning to end, and this one is just out of the router. Nothing's been done to it other than I did a light sanding for about 2 minutes. It takes 45 minutes to cut everything that you see. So by the time you sand it and spray it with a little polyurethane varnish, you probably got about 45 minutes into it. This is what I ended up with. Still not quite economical to produce. So, on with my mission. All right, you guys remember this guy. I made him a couple of years ago, and I made it out of a cheese tray that I bought from Bed Bath & Beyond. It's made by a company called Epicurean. So, I went back and I looked for some more, and they still make them. Their logo's different. They got a sticker on the back now, but same Epicurean block, except this one's in brown. And that is what I came up with. No plunge cuts because it's only 1/4 of an inch thick, but I've got 3 of these trays that are cut to different depths. I got my dump tray, and then all the flutes are the same depth cut as that dump tray. Came out very, very nice. It comes with a little hole to hang it up out of the way when you're not using it. Yeah, 43 minutes, but no post-production sanding or anything is required. This is exactly what it looks like when it comes out of the machine. Anyway, still at 45 minutes, you're not going to find these listed on the LockLab for sale. Sorry, guys, but I will give you the plans. If you'd like to make any of these, I'll put all the plans for everything I've just shown you onto Thingiverse, and I'll put the link down there in the description. So if you want to 3D print it, if you want to take the source files and modify it and put your own logo or your own name up there, or if you have a 3D cutter, you can take the G-code and cut it exactly the way it is right there. If you want this stuff, check out the link. Go get it for free. Anyway, guys, appreciate your time. Stay safe, stay legal, and I hope that explains why my hands have been banged up for the last 2 weeks. Thanks, guys. I've produced over 200 videos a year for the last several years and would really appreciate your support. All I'm asking is you subscribe, click on the like button for each video, and share them on social media. That's it. Thanks, guys.